Welcome everyone. This is the Kubeflow SDK and ML Experience Working on Community Call on 3rd of December. We're going to record this call and we're going to publish on YouTube. And as always, we follow CNCF Code of Conduct. So yeah, welcome everyone. Just before we get started, any new people here on the call who just want to say hello, want to introduce yourself to the community? Um, Feel free to use chat or just unmute yourself and say hello. All right, in that case, we can get probably started. Just give me 1 second. So I know that Eder is out of office today. Do we have any updates for the KL we want to talk about today? I know Hannah and Willem, you want to briefly talk about the updates, right? Do you want to get started first and we can talk about this SDK after? What do you think?
Sure, yeah. We just have a few
Yeah.
quick things. We've made quite a lot of progress. We think we fixed the last blocker for release. So we're just finishing up some final tests and checks before release. And then we did see that they updated the Kubeflow pipelines, and the latest version doesn't work with Kale, or Kale doesn't work on that version, but we do have a fix. We can just hard code 2.14.6. It's fully tested on there, and Kale does work there. So we'll just release with that as the tested version. And then if we need to update Kale to work with the later KFP versions, we can do that after the release. Um, we do still have one security ticket that was opened about Kubernetes, and our principal engineer is looking into that to see if he can figure out what needs to happen there. So that's kind of our final thing. And then we wanted to check if anyone here has anything else they know we need. And Will, please jump in if I'm missing anything.
Yeah, so just about the KFP pipelines 2.15 release, Kale is making use of some internal APIs, and it didn't work well with this latest KFP API version. But uh, Kale is, we think that it's a needs fix. The KFP community helped us to track down the issue. But Kale is working very well with 2.14.6, and we also have that future plan to use the new Kubeflow API. So I don't think it's having any impact on the release. So we are still on track for releasing KO anytime soon. So about Michael question. So yeah, let me send you the link. I think we should put on the document as well the link. Just 1 second. So we first thought that it could be related to KFP, but we then narrowed the issue to KO using internal APIs. We still didn't have time to go deeper into this issue. But KO is, we can use 2.14.6 for now, but we also think that's a needs fix.
William, I wanted to ask you whether eventually you managed to um, work locally against a remote Kubernetes cluster, and if that's the case, what did you have to change?
Yeah, so thank you for asking about that. I forgot to mention that. So, we are able now to use DevPy locally. With the changes we made, we can now build KO and then publish to the local DevPy. But we had these two problems with consuming the latest KO from the FPI. One was that the Kubeflow pipelines was not able to see the local host, which is expected. Then we use the Minikube host for doing that, and it seems to work now. But we have another problem that's not related to KO, neither to Kubeflow. It's related to the pipelines, because when we have a pip indexed URL, the KFP is adding this to the trusted host, but it's putting the full URL to the trusted host, and it seems that people can't resolve trusted hosts when it's using the full URL. People do not expect that because it should be a host, right? So it leads to another problem, but we can simply get around or get a workaround by just modifying the DSL to generate a YML to use the correct trusted host. And that's a KFP issue for working on that. Right now, every URL that you add to the pip index URL will be used as trusted host, and that's why we have this problem. But this workaround is working fine for us so far, which is basically go to the YML and then modify the trusted host generated line to use the host itself and not the HTTP //
Okay, do you think you could maybe document all of this process? I think we have an issue open still about this, or if we don't, maybe we should open a follow-up one linking to the other PR, so we can clarify what needs to change and what are the dependencies on these KFP issues. But that's great. That's great. You managed to do it. And I feel like in terms of development process and release process, we still have that draft PR to introduce the new GitHub actions. But besides that, in terms of workflow and automation, after that, we should be in a fairly good place.
Yeah. So I'm finishing the document. This afternoon, I will ask if Hannah or Adam, if they can peer review the document to see if all the steps are correct. And then I will see where can I submit that, probably in our README. But I will send on the community channels too for you to verify. And thank you for working on the development process. It's looking very good now.
No, thank you for testing it out. Andre, I just wanted to bring up real quick the donation discussion. We briefly chatted in private. You mentioned that it might be maybe an issue for the graduation process for Kubeflow. What's your feeling about it?
So yeah, we talked with Francisco, Johan, and Julius and John about it. So I think like the only concern is about whether CNCF will kind of postpone the graduation because we kind of have more projects on the Kubeflow. Because as of today, we only have 6 projects we're going to graduate, and this is the part of our application. I guess like if they say this is fine, we can definitely move forward. Otherwise, I want to hear your perspective. Maybe from this, you can also give your perspective from KSC. Like, what do you think we should do here to make sure we don't really delay the graduation for the project?
Yeah, I mean, I think the graduation is like a real important thing. I also think that we don't know what the status of graduation is. We're just waiting to talk. And so like that puts KL Nation into a block state effectively.
Who decides over at CNCF to either block or not block or whether?
Well, they're not explicitly blocking us. There's a queue, and we're just not at the top of it. That's all it is, to be honest with you.
And what if this becomes a lengthy discussion? We can move it offline, but I wonder if there's a
way to speed it up.
No, like a list of things we should either evaluate to make sure that potentially donating KL does not lead us to a blocking situation, or rather setting ourselves up to success, in a way that allows us to say, hey, this is safe to donate. Don't worry about it. Like it complies with everything else you've been going through for the rest of the project. And
so I think we can start a thread with George, and I don't know, with Bill or with other folks from CNCF. and see, like what we can do there, right? Because I think like they will do so basically what the process will be, right? They will do government's review and they will do review like GTR doc, the one that we work in over the summer, right? And in this doc also like the security audit, etc. So all those
Yeah.
things being focused on the 6 projects, right?
Yeah.
And we want to hear from them like, hey, like we have this activity going on within the community. It could be outside of gradation criteria. Can we still
Mhm.
be graded project as fast as we can without blocking us, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's a good approach.
Okay, so let's sync offline and decide how to approach whoever at CNCF we need to involve. Let's take it from there.
Yeah, let me first start a thread with George, and then we
Okay.
can figure out, what we can do.
All right.
That front. And I
Thank
think
you.
also, so the issue with pipelines, in the meantime, I think Julius said, I think it would be nice, guys, if you can also prioritize it, right? Because I think Julius, like, I
Yep.
think he made the valid concern that, the KFP issue probably should be resolved.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so everybody, like, we don't want to block it, but in the meantime, like, we're already waiting for, like, 7 months.
Totally
Um,
understand. Let's
yeah,
let's try
and
to align and see
we don't
see
even
what
know
they
like
think.
if we're going to grade before Amsterdam. So because I mean there
Yeah.
are a lot of projects going on, right? So
Yeah.
um, you know
Okay.
things moving slow. Um, all right,
All
let
right.
me. Yeah, anything else we want to talk about right now on the KL side? Um, Yeah, so maybe just before we move on to Keyflow SDK, I just want to briefly say here, maybe I will remind this several times in the future. We might going to switch the Zoom account from this to the new one, and I will keep everyone posted because we kind of like gradually migrated to the CNCF Zoom, which will be a different Zoom, and we're gonna have a different calendar that you can subscribe and see all those meetings. So definitely we'll keep you posted for the updates and let you know like in the Slack or in the Keyflow Discuss Google group for the new meeting link. And please, like again, if you don't know, like we have this Slack channel called ML Experience. We're discussing things around KL and SDK, and also we have a couple of Slack channels in CNCF. So please join it. All right, so couple of topics for SDK. I know, Annie, you want to talk about extras and platform releases. So do we want to talk about this first, or want to talk about Spark first and model registry? What do you think? Um,
Um, I'm happy either way. Yeah, I think those should be quite straightforward. So maybe we could start with extras and release.
Okay, if it's fast one, yeah, we can go and we can give Shekhar and others to time to speak about their caps.
Okay, so regarding platform release, I know we have mentioned that yesterday in the community call quickly, but I wanted to bring this up as well. So we are looking into cutting a Kubeflow platform release 1.11, maybe in the beginning next year. We do have Trainer, Katip, and Kubeflow SDK. So I wanted to briefly touch on those projects. So regarding Trainer, I guess there are no blockers on our side. We have 2.1, and maybe we will also have 2.2 by that time. Is it right?
Yeah, so if they're going to release before January, probably no. We plan right now like in the mid of Jan, the
Okay.
2.2, yeah.
And then regarding Katip, we do have 0.19.
Yep.
So my question is, are we looking into having this new release for optimization job by that time? I know it depends on the volunteers,
Yep.
but if not, we just got the release with 0.19.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, again, as you said, like depends on the people who can work on this, but not for before platform release. So
Okay.
definitely 0.19 will be there, which supports train jobs within experiment API, experiment CRD.
Okay, makes sense.
On the Kedip side, like I kind of like want to maybe not right now, but maybe in a trainer call discuss, if there are any interest from folks to, work on this. Because I know we discussed, for example, with Francisco for the other AutoML capabilities, where it should live, where we should work on the renaming of this project, etc. So we need to figure out what we can do there.
And then regarding Katip SDK or Kubeflow SDK,
Yeah.
it's not going to be part of the platform release. But even though I think we should, if we discussed it yesterday, we should align at least one Kubeflow SDK version with platform release. and have like a compatibility version table. Any
Yep.
thoughts on that from anyone?
Yeah, I can give my perspective. Anyone else like have any thought like how we can keep release compatibility um, between versions? Yeah, go ahead, Seth.
So I guess we have release liaisons, how I'm saying the name right, for each project. So if we have integration points between projects, so it could be between those guys to define if things are broken, or maybe defining integration tests to be like cross projects to kind of make sure always if something is a change and is breakable, we bump the version. I don't know, that's just like a trivial idea.
Yeah, I think so. I think as I said yesterday, all those projects they kind of very self-isolated and composable. I think the only thing we need to align is dependency versions like Kubernetes, Argo, Jobset, etc., which must be compatible. And I think it's kind of our responsibility to make sure like all of the tools we develop in our SDK they're compatible between each other, like Spark, Trainer, KT, what we have right now. The pipelines will be the problem, right? Because pipelines has a bunch of dependencies. Um, but like from my perspective, users should expect that the versions are compatible, and we give them a compatibility table on the tools they can install to use SDK, right?
Yeah. So there are two or three components, I guess, that would be tightly coupled. Like Katapp and Trainer, pipelines covers pretty much the whole stack. So pipelines will be the biggest problem we have. For Katapp, I think it's going to be working fine since we're having Katapp migrated to we use Trainer v2 and deprecating Trainer v1 or training operator, then we shouldn't be really having so many problems. Should be, as you said in the beginning, should work out of the box with any release.
We also have model registry and with Spark operator, but daytime.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem to synchronize again. They are kind of again the projects are very composable, right? Yes, optimization job depends on train job. That's true. Uh, but like the one you need to align on Kubernetes version eventually, isn't it? Like at least for now. Um,
Yeah. It just brings the same philosophical question we were discussing yesterday in yesterday's call. Should we keep our projects kind of as it is right now, which is there is no direct and tightly coupled integration between each other, or do we keep them decoupled and they could work okay, but the user have to do the extra mile by maybe using the SDK to integrate both of them or connect them on an SDK level or another level if the user prefers. But anyway, maybe we can create a task or an issue. Somebody needs to build compatibility metrics, and what are the elements that we need to take into account when we're building this metrics or updating it. Sorry, metrics, not
yeah,
metrics.
I mean, I think it depends on what we're going to support. Again, like I don't see a problem for us to integrate KFP within, Kubeflow SDK because KFP can actually orchestrate any type of components within, KFP tasks, right? And like we probably like again like our goal should be make sure those projects are compatible and in the meantime give users enough extensibility, right? Because there are a bunch of different use cases how people use those tools, right? So they might want to integrate with their own orchestration system, for example, or maybe instead of Spark they want to use Dusk, I don't know, something like this. So we might need to give them opportunity to integrate, but at the same time if they want to use everything, like it's our responsibility to make those tools compatible, right? um, Yeah, but the trick will be like where we have multiple versions of a single component, how we can support them. Yeah, I think we discussed this when we started this doc with Francisco in, half a year ago. So I think this we need to come back. Like, for example, if you're going to have like two versions of API, CRD API, how are we going to support them in SDK? Um, so this is unclear right now, yeah.
Cool. Sounds great. shouldn't be a problem for the platform release. I think we can move on to the next item now on minds regarding the Kubeflow SDK extras. So John, he's working on the model registry client integration with Kubeflow SDK, and he brought a good point is that do we consider model registry as extra or as a default? And I think that we all should align and agree on one approach. In my opinion, we should consider all the Kubeflow projects by default, not as extra, and then all third-party integrations should be extras like MLflow, OpenTelemetry, etc. Are there any thoughts from anyone? Because we are looking into integrating more clients into Kubeflow SDK. So I think that's a good point to start the discussion.
Yeah, John, go first.
I was just going to say, I think you make some good points, Anya, on sort of extras of extras. I have a few just possible options in mind that I can sort of add to this BR for future discussion. It can add up. I mean, model registry isn't a real heavy dependency, but like users are not prevented from adding those extras. One option would be to, have this hub extra by default, just include all of model registries extras. There's a few different options I see, but yeah, I would love to get other thoughts as well. Thanks for bringing this up.
I kind of like want to ask like from you, John, like, are you planning to eventually migrate the client to the Kubeflow SDK?
That's a good question. That's the big one. I'm not sure right off. I think I heard some discussion around that. It seems like there would be some pros and cons there. I do think there would be real benefits to keeping this thin wrapper together with model registry, with the existing sort of lower level developer client we have that it's wrapping long term. And so that was another thing I'd like to figure out because it almost could make sense to put this code in the model registry repo and use, the either a direct re-export in Kubeflow or like namespace packages as discussed in the original issue. But it also wouldn't necessarily be a disaster to have them in separate repos.
Yes, I'll go ahead.
So there are two things I would like to talk about. First, I think we should introduce soft migration to Kubeflow SDK. And soft migration means we just like add a pip install and a thin wrapper, or like, a thin wrapper could be like a good thing to start at the beginning. Second, I would say all components migrate their a second could be a proposal to migrate all clients for all different components like pipelines, model registry, everything to Kubeflow SDK, and keep them as get some modules in their own original repository if they want to keep them in the repository and work with them. I don't know if that could be like a happy medium solution for everybody. Like if you need the SDK for some reason, like ease of use, you can just like make that directory available on your repositories and get some modules, and it will be part of the SDK. And we need to think of an ownership model to allow like our owners file to give people permissions on their like directories inside the Kubeflow folder. So there'll be like model registry will be taking ownership of model registry folder and so on and so forth. Then teams can feel free to update and just like merge their own PRs. But I think the SDK should stay in a single place because this is supposed to be the glue that stitches everything in Kubeflow together and just brings this kind of a sense of a product into a single place. And also will keep the teams communicating in a single repo and aware of what each other are doing in different sub-projects or components within Kubeflow. That's my own opinion. So soft migrations, did some modules to keep the SDKs available, and the benefit of like having sub owners or like structuring our owners file. Thank you.
So if I can clarify for the model registry example, like this code that I have here might live in our model registry repo that we have, and then we just have that as a Git submodule in Kubeflow SDK.
I meant it the other way around, to be honest. It's just like have it as natively living in Kubeflow SDK, and it lives in as a Git submodule in the actual repo of the component itself. That's how we can tag it and release it as a single component. Maybe we also could think about it the other way around, but I think just creating PRs for your own SDK in a center repository where everybody else, we kind of gain visibility on what everybody is doing, and where things could be interesting for cross-project collaborations and integrations.
Yeah, because I think the problem is like if we store those clients separately, it will be extremely hard for us to manage pip dependencies because Python quite, I mean, stupid. Because like it's really hard to manage dependencies if they kind of like in the different repos. And eventually it will be much easier for us to manage everything in a single PyProject.toml, as Sat said, right? Um, and I think like for now as intermediate state, I think we should keep this as extras because the problem is like, again, as I said, like it's very hard to manage cross dependencies across all of those clients. And if we all agree that eventually everything will be stored in the Kubeflow SDK, we kind of like needs to move towards it for KFP and for model registry, because for Spark, I guess like that will be from the beginning because it's a new client, right? Similar to Feast, we can talk about it. You go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you are saying that for now we are considering model registry as extra, and then once we migrate the SDK to the Kubeflow SDK repository, it will be by default, right?
Yeah, this is my recommendation. Yeah, I don't know, like John or Sad, do you have any objections with it?
That makes sense to me. Yeah, I see a few trade-offs whichever way we go. But I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree too.
Oh, sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah, because again, like all of these kind of observability tools and other things, I think I expect we're going to integrate them cross clients, right? So hotel, like like another things like with MLflow, right? Which might be useful across all those clients. Yeah, I mean, like again, we can just iterate on this, right? Like we can start with extras if it doesn't work. If you still want to have separate client, we can talk about it, how to make them available, right, as a separate clients. All right, so then again, I want to give Shahar time to talk about Spark. So Shahar, do you want to share your screen? Or you want me to share your head?
Yeah, let me pull my screen.
Yeah, let me.
Okay, let me try again.
You should have permission, right? Allow multi.
Yeah, let me try. Let me rejoin once. Sorry
Yep.
for that.
Yeah, in the meantime, while waiting, I think on the survey side, we still collecting the survey. Again, like we have more responses, it's good. I also like ask our MLEs to give a feedback. So again, like if you know any teams who actually, struggling to manage AI workloads, please share the survey with them. Again, as I said before, even if they don't use Kubeflow, we kind of like try to collect this feedback as much as we can so we can prioritize our experience. Like we can prioritize the work for the SDK moving forward. So please, very important for everyone to share this with your teams so we can at least, and maybe like, I don't know, around January timeframe, we can maybe summarize it somehow. Yeah. Any thoughts on this? Like, Anesat, what do you think? This look good?
Yeah, January sounds great. Maybe like beginning of February, depending on the amount of responses we get.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I think should we I said I was going to do it, but maybe I should send it to the Kubeflow discuss mailing list so people can just not be aware of the SDK, like the wider audience. So like Kubeflow
You mean
users.
you mean the results, Had?
No, like the actual
Oh yeah. So yeah, this
survey.
I still you're right. So I still need to send this in the queue for discuss, and I know Ani you sent this on LinkedIn, so we need to probably ask Outreach team to also repost it and promote it across social medias. Yeah, but I will do it as well.
Cool. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah, Shara, do you want to like share your let me stop sharing.
Yeah, let me try to. I hope is it visible?
Yeah, now you can see it.
Yeah, so mainly I want to touch upon the design and why we choose this design. As we know, there is multiple way of running Spark applications. Um, One is through Spark Kubernetes operator. We can create CRD and submit the Spark application. It will be running in Spark cluster, and job will be running in the backend. There are different way through REST APIs, Apache DB, and Batch Processing Gateway also provides REST API to submit the Spark application, and the Spark Connect as well. When we have Spark Connect CRD, and if we deploy it, if the Spark cluster is running, we can connect to Spark Connect through PySpark and do the experiments. So basically, we want to accommodate all these backend in our Kubeflow Spark client. So that is the main motivation. The architecture side, the plan is to have two clients. One is Batch Spark client, which is responsible for creating the Kubernetes CRD, submit the Spark application, and through the APIs like get job, wait for job status, and delete job. Those are basically take the parameter of application name or job ID and give us the result whenever we invoke this API. The other one is Spark Session Client, which is nothing but connecting to existing Spark Connect and Spark cluster. And once a session is created, it is pretty much we have all the APIs like whatever the PySpark provides on the fly. So basically, we can have the session, we can create the data frame, and it is very interactive Spark session basically. So one question is like, why do we have two clients, right? Batch Spark client and Spark session client. So actually, let's say if we have a one interface for both the batch and Spark session, there is a little bit confusion for users. Let's say if someone is want to just submit the batch a Spark and not creating the session, but they also will be visible to see these APIs. So just want to avoid those confusion and the type safety basically. And internally, the batch Spark client will be having two kind of backends. One is Kubernetes operator backend, another is gateway backend, which is mainly the REST API way, and the other one is the CRD way of submitting the Spark job. The Spark session will right now we can have the connect backend, which will create the Spark session, and it is pretty much GRP connection, the two-way connection, and we should be able to interact with the Spark cluster for data frame creation or doing any kind of experiments. So this is the main design that is proposed in KIP. And pretty much all the comments that I got in this proposal are resolved. Let me know if anyone have anything to share And once we merge this, we should be able to have some kind of experimental Spark client API available.
Yeah, I think this is great. I think I kind of like have a few comments that we can talk about right now. So first of all, I think we need to kind of discuss whether we need two clients or one client. I understand like that your main motivation, the confusion that batch Spark client cannot be used for interactive sessions, and sessions of our Spark client mostly used for like Spark Connect. So let me ask you this question. So in the Spark session client, do you create Spark session CRD? Because I know that Uchin, they recently created this new CRD in Spark operator.
Yes. Yeah, we can do the enhancement and the actual execution, the implementation, basically how we will be creating the Spark Connect. We can create a Spark Connect CRD and submit it if it is not available. If it is available, then we will pass the master node URL, so that um, it will create the session, basically goes to that particular Spark cluster, get the session. So yeah, both is possible.
Yeah, but I think what I'm asking about this specific CRD, right? So the Spark Connect CRD.
Yeah, I saw that. It
Mhm.
is pretty much same CRD. Yeah, the
Okay.
Spark Connect one. Yes,
To the
the
Spark.
resource name is Spark Connect. Yes.
And what are the main difference between Spark application and Spark Connect? Spark Connect allows you to start a stateful Spark cluster, like, and then connect it to the uh, to the driver.
Yeah, so the Spark Connect provides interface to actually talk to the Spark cluster. It is
Mhm.
some kind of sidecar you can think of. It is just providing an interface to connect to a Spark cluster that is already running. And Spark application is the actual job that we want to submit it. So that will not be providing any kind of connection back, like not the two-way connection. Through the Spark Connect, actually, we have two-way connection. Basically, when we create a session, it have
Mhm.
two-way connection, and it is some kind of WebSocket connection you can think of
So is this
through
connection
this.
exposed by this CRD? Like when they create the CRD?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
When we create the Spark Connect CRD,
Mhm.
it will be deployed. It will provide a service and localhost some port, and through
Mhm.
those localhost and port, we should be able to connect to a Spark cluster.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because like the question will be, I know like there is also the work for creating Spark cluster CRD, which will be different one, right? From Spark Connect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is pretty much very different way of connecting to a Spark cluster, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe like like to move forward, the question, do we need two clients or one client, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? Because again, the main difference is like APIs are different. We can, for example, adjust them to have, we can call this connect or submit, I don't know, something like this to distinguish it. But wondering like if there are any benefits. Yeah, go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, in my opinion, it will be much easier if we have just one client, Spark client, because we don't have any APIs that overlap. Those are clearly distinguished. I guess it makes sense to just keep one client, but happy when Amazon has any objections.
Yeah, even I thought of having one client. The only reason was to just segregate the responsibility and do not mix the APIs which is present in Spark session client but not present in batch processing client, something like that. But if you want single Spark client, and the configuration will be passed as per if you want operator backend, gateway backend, or connect backend. and if we have enough documents stating that if we have operator backend, then these APIs will be available, and these APIs will be like not implemented or some kind of
I
error.
don't. Yeah, I don't think it's required though, because again, like from my so client is only needed to connect to Kubernetes cluster, correct? Like client is mostly for you to connect to Kube API server because you're just creating the CRDs, right? And then you connect them, like when you do connect session, if we forget about gateway backend, I don't think even we should implement the first phase, as I mentioned in the cap. It's probably maybe
Yeah.
in the next phase we can only focus on operator backend and connection backend, right? Um,
Hmm.
which means like the client, it's only responsible for you as the user to connect to Kube API server, isn't it? Or we need something else there.
Yeah, yeah. If we want to have some kind of yeah, yeah. What do you think? Like, what should be the API look like? The Spark client dot connect and providing the configurations for operator if you want operator, or connect backend if you want connect backend, and
Yeah, this.
then it
Yeah.
will return the corresponding clients which have only specific APIs. Like if it is a session client, then it will have only these APIs.
But like, so from my understanding, again, if you have the Sparkline.connect API and which will actually create a session, um, you can then, have another API called Sparkline, for example, submit application, which will submit a batch job, right? And then you can distinguish them based on the also properties this user can specify as the input parameters. Like for example, in submit application, I think we discussed this in another comment. Maybe user should provide a function and then want to submit to the where they define the Spark transformations. I think this we can also talk about it afterwards. So similar to like experience we give them with the PyTorch, how they define a PyTorch function, and this PyTorch function can be distributed across PyTorch cluster, so they can do distribute training. So similar to this, they can define a function where it defines Spark transformations, and they submit application where those transformations will be run. So this can be in a batch training,
Yeah,
right?
actually, the difference between in trainer client actually it is bit different
Mm.
than the Spark client, because in Spark client when we are submitting a job, we need to have that Spark application dot py, or if it is a jar should be available in the class path actually. So I
Yeah.
was doing some research if it is really possible or not. Um, the conclusion was basically we need to have enough resources allocated, and the the code that we want to execute in Spark as part of Spark application should be available when creating the CRD itself.
Yeah. So
So
this.
if it is
Yeah.
already running, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Mhm.
Finish your point. Finish your point.
Yeah, if it is if the application is already running, then it might possible. But I will try. I will try. Like I will deep dive a bit more and see if that function one is really possible or not.
Yeah. So let's say we only talk about PySpark right now. We don't talk about, like Scala Spark, where you need to have jars available inside your Spark driver. Because like the idea was that, if we just need to have a file which is available in the driver file system, we can probably achieve it, via like for example init containers. Like the idea that I
Mhm.
mentioned in the comments. I think like there is another person who also said like they kind of implemented something similar. I think I saw the comment from, I think Arsen. Yeah, he commented that probably they have the same capability internally to kind of like have an annotation on the function which converted to the Spark, basically to the file, and this file is available in the driver. So this we can do.
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely do this with the init containers, for example.
Okay.
And that will allow people, if you're speaking about, submitting the batch jobs, that will allow them to define a function where they define the Spark transformations, and then we kind of like put this code in the driver. So the like the local file is available inside the driver, right?
Got it. Okay. Got it. Got it. Yeah, if you have some reference or link, just put it in the comment somewhere so that I will refer.
Yeah.
So I think the priority is to have the connect backend. I believe like batch one is anyways not very useful and interactive. As of now, if someone wants to do quick experiments, right, they need interactive session
Mm-hmm.
like this, which is CRD. So maybe we can start with the Spark client and just creating the session and these APIs
Yeah.
for the first release.
I think I think you're right. So basically, like having the ability to execute SQL queries interactively, I think this is super important. And folks right now they do this with the enterprise gateway for Jupyter, etc. So we give them a way to connect directly from their Python environment to the Spark cluster. So let me ask you a few questions. So for the Spark session URL, right? Is there a way for us to kind of automate all of this for user? So user just run one command called, for example, connect, and that will create them a stateful connection to the Spark cluster. Like, is it possible to automate all those tokens, connection URL, yeah, etc.?
That that should be possible. Will it need little bit tuning at the infra side? We need to see how the service is looking like. As of now, I checked in the local host itself, but let's say if we have a service running and um, everything is running in same Kubernetes cluster, and the service will be accessible to the cluster.
Yep.
Yeah, I can try it out. That yeah, definitely. If Spark Connect is not running already, then should we should be able to create the Spark Connect CRD and deploy, and on the fly, user should be able to
Yeah.
connect to a Spark cluster for all the experiments.
Yeah, because looking at connect URL is just, like the service name, .spark.svc, and the port number, which probably is static, right? Which means like, if we create this Spark Connect CRD, and if we know the name of the CRD and the service name, we can just, automate this for the user, right? So user just run one URL call, like, one API call connect, and then they interact with this session, right?
Correct, 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 correct. Yeah, that would be more useful and very easy for user. And the first release we can focus on
Okay. Anyone else have any
that.
thoughts on this? Like any?
Let me
Yeah.
cap and update.
Yeah, so I guess I also like again the next step would be to figure out whether like one client works for us and what API we should do, for this session connection versus the batch submission, right?
Yeah. Let's focus on the session creation and
Mhm.
let user experiment. And if we get new requirement for batch side, then we can think of having these other APIs.
Yeah, and I think also the batch also sounds very interesting because again, like as I said in the comment, I've never seen such experience when people can quickly submit batch Spark jobs. People, for example, right now use Airflow with their Spark operator, not operator, I think they called their own kind of components, right, for Spark. But I don't know any kind of like simplified client which allows people to quickly experiment, at least for the PySpark. So I think it will be really interesting for us to investigate these experiences.
Yeah, true. If it is some kind of pipeline and user do not interacting anything with this Spark application, they just want to have some Spark job that is reading from somewhere, doing some kind of transformation processing, and then
Yep.
writing back to somewhere, either Iceberg or Glue Table or somewhere, or publishing to Kafka, right?
Yep.
In those scenarios, this batch one will be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that also like the KFP integration becomes extremely useful here as well because KFP can stitch all these pieces together then once we have this capability available. So yeah, let's definitely. I think it's definitely like we should prioritize this work. I mean, I hope folks will help because I saw a lot of interest for this, but I think once we build this experience, I'm pretty sure like there are more people will see like the whole value, like the kind of end-to-end value we give them with this SDK. So let's definitely follow
Mhm.
up. Right.
So let me create, first step should be focusing on the session client, and maybe once we are ready with the session client, and another cap for the batch one, which we will
I,
discuss later
yeah.
on.
We don't really
That
need two caps. I think you can do everything here. We can just update the API, right? I think like just the next step again, like
Mm,
having the single Spark client where we define this clear APIs, what we should do first, like as we discussed, connect, list sessions,
mm,
etc. And then we can say in the future we can update this cap, right? To introduce the batch APIs,
okay.
like submit application, etc. Right? So we can
Okay.
iterate on this
Okay.
cap moving forward. We don't need to create multiple ones.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Sure. Let me do that. Yeah. Thanks for feedback.
All right. I know we almost over time and we didn't get a chance to speak about trainers, but any kind of so maybe we can start like maybe next time we can talk this as the first topic.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
That works
i-
for me.
are there any kind of like things we need to give you feedback offline, during the before we discuss on the call?
Yeah, if you can take a look at the documents, like people can just take a look, review it, leave comments, or leave their feedback. What do you think?
Okay,
And then we can discuss it briefly next time to be more time efficient.
sounds great. Anything else? All right, folks. So thanks everyone. Then I guess like let's follow up and again I will keep you posted if we do any updates for the Zoom and for the caps. Looking forward for the feedback. Thanks everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.